Hello, and thank you so much for watching as I restart my own YouTube channel here. I've been dormant for a little bit, tending to a lot of other stuff this year, but I'm so excited to jump back in. Can't believe it's November already. It's already time to transition from my pumpkin spice drinks into like my cinnamon, gingerbread, apple, white girl season drinks of the holidays. So very excited to be back at this truly. There's so much more content coming. We're going to get back to some live streams. We're going to get back to some watch alongs and interviews, but I'm really, really excited to kick off my 5 things series. And what it is every month I'm going to take a look at WWE and AEW, and from my PR and marketing background, kind of look at what I think they're doing extraordinarily well, which is going to come a little bit later this month, and some things that they could improve on. Even as white hot of a product as WWE is, as much money as just is being invested in AEW as is going there are definitely still things that I see both companies can improve on. And I'm kind of excited to explore them through my background of marketing and public relations. If you're not familiar with me and you're new around these parts, I am on Fightful talking about wrestling most nights. I'm very lucky to be over there on the Fightful YouTube channel, podcasting, doing post shows most nights of the week. And when I'm not there, I'm on the Mark Order podcast talking all things All Elite Wednesday nights after AEW Dynamite. And I also show up on other shows on the Shining Wizards Network from time to time. That flagship show, the Shining Wizards podcast, the first Monday of every month. I'm over there for Kate's Corner. So I am a pro wrestling content creator. I do have a background in public relations and marketing. And I'm excited today to talk about 5 things that I think WWE can get a little bit stronger on, as hot as the product is right now. And I'm looking at number 4 and I'm already seeing people be like, she's a Triple H hater, but hold on with me. We're going to get there and I will explain myself on a few things, but we're going to kick this off by talking about the WWE ID program. Now, this is essentially, if you're watching from like a traditional sports background, it's almost like franchise tagging. It's when WWE is choosing promising students in the independent wrestling scene that are training at their WWEID verified schools, which I believe as of right now is only the Nightmare Factory run by Cody Rhodes and Black and Brave run by Seth Rollins. To my knowledge, the only real detail we have about it is that there's some sort of tuition assistance and that these people will be put on certain tracks. Now, this caused both positive and negative reactions that were very strong. And I feel like I'm not reacting that strong because I don't feel like we like know what it is yet. There were some people that were saying this is going to set a whole new standard on the indies. This is how you know how to make the jump from the indies to television. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then there were some negative reactions of NXT UK ruined the independent scene over there. They're going to relaunch the territory system. This is going to homogenize the whole independent scene. Really, really strong reactions. But to me, my problem with this rollout is, what is it? Like, I don't feel like we have enough details. Now, looking at it through a PR brain, something that you never want to do is roll something out before you can answer basic and intermediate questions. The rule of thumb is kind of, if you can't answer basic questions, don't roll it out yet. If you can't answer intermediate questions, you probably shouldn't, because you're going to want to save I don't know for those advanced questions. You're going to get hit with some really, really nuanced questions when you're launching a program that could kind of upset the system in a different way. And you got to be able to answer those basics, and you got to be able to answer kind of that middle tier of questions that aren't super aggressive or overly detailed, but definitely exploratory. So I look at the WWE ID Twitter account. Their announcements have been a close up of someone's eyes being like, who do you think this is? And then basically the vacant graphic and the vacant female graphic being like, who do you guys think this is? That is not a strategy. Like, there is not cohesion on any level there. I'm assuming there's more details internally that just haven't been made public yet, but there's no point in rolling this out until you're ready to share those, because you're just kind of putting people in an awkward situation until that's done. I don't know if the students at these schools are aware of the details of this. I don't know if they've been informed already. I'm assuming if they have like, who is this graphics, there's some people that have already signed on to this, but there are way too many question marks and not enough answers. Never keeps people from reacting really strongly though, but I would have waited on this whole thing, or I would have shared more, because right now it just feels kind of like chaos and it doesn't feel optimistic and promising for the independent scene when nobody knows what the heck it is. So that's my number one. Number two, straight out of the Captain Obvious camp, they have to make a change in their music department. I believe they're already searching for something. I remember seeing, I think somebody from Fightful had posted that there's a position opening in the music department, and they desperately need it. And I'm not someone that calls for other people's jobs, but something in the system is broken in how these themes are getting created, and they are actively bad. Every single theme is instrumental loop, person's name or tagline, usually like mixed lo-fi and electronically in the back somewhere, and then resume to the same hook. There's no ambition, there's no creativity. I'm dreading what happens when these themes hit at Royal Rumble. It was already bad enough on the last one. People pop for like the Rhea Ripleys of the world and the Cody Rhodeses and Roman Reigneses of the world, but those people already had other themes, and what a coincidence. They're your biggest stars, right? So there's a huge difference between a good theme and a great theme. The gap between an average theme and a great theme, or a bad theme and a great theme, are almost insurmountable. And we as wrestling fans know it when we hear it, right? When that glass shatters, you know it's Stone Cold coming out. When those first notes of Kevin Owens' theme hit, you know what's up. So, it just feels like you want that double pop. You want the theme hits pop, and you want the person's face when they appear to also have that pop. And it just feels like we're going to be waiting for people's faces for a really long time. Um, Even current stars, like look at LA Knight, right? When you hear ow, ow, people are off and running with that. Like we know intuitively what makes a great theme. We are not getting that from Def Rebel. So they either need to make personnel changes, fix the system, or whatever. But this has been something that has been a colossal gap in what is a pretty integral part to forming a wrestler's presentation. Now, number three, I struggled to put on this list because it's very specific, and I think they're making a lot of headway in how they use legends otherwise. But I feel like the use of legends on their social media presence is something that is woefully underutilized. And let me explain what I mean by that. We see them in ambassador roles. We see them on screen arguably too much sometimes, but we don't see them on long form or short form social media content. And they do a really good job on like their TikTok stuff always has a sense of humor about it. They're always on top of trends. They always have talent contributing to those things. But when you have pushed forward into pop culture again in the way that WWE has over the course of the past year or so, it's silly not to take the most familiar faces and pair them with your current superstars. Like we should be having sit downs between legends and Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. I wouldn't put CM Punk in that conversation yet because he almost feels like a cusp leaning into that with the way that he's come back right now. Um, you know, you have access to Lita. You should have her having conversations with the women of WWE right now. And I just feel like we don't get a lot of that. We have like Stone Cold's podcast and things like that, which has advanced conversations in the space in a really nice way. But I feel like taking the names that everybody remembers from a nostalgia trip who are now reinterested in your product and putting them on social media feels like a no-brainer that they're not necessarily taking advantage of. So that's what I would do if I was in charge of their digital department. You have access to so many legends. You have all these fun callbacks that have reemerged now. They should be on the social media presence more, both in long form and in short form content. So number four is People might crucify me for this, and that's fine, but hear me out. They gotta get Triple H out of the media relations stuff. He needs to not be a part of these media scrums anymore. And people are gonna say it's because he took a swipe at my boss, which I was not a fan of, because he said that Sean was incredible. He works very hard to be, but it actually has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with me being publicity trained and seeing what this guy brings and doesn't bring to the table. And it feels like whenever we walk away from one of these media scrums with Triple H involved, we're talking about blunders that he's made, saying he didn't read the lawsuit, saying that he is colorblind, which didn't sit well with a lot of people, taking swipes at credible publications in the space. So he's not great in that we're always talking about something negative instead of the positive. But there's also these other things, and I could do a whole separate video on this. I won't, but I could do a whole separate video on this about his body language, the tone of his voice, so many things with his body language, the way he sits crossed off. There was one point where he was talking about WWE releases, and there was no palpable empathy, like extremely monotone. He is the opposite of what you want, and a lot of people I've seen said they got to get a media relations training. That you got to have the right student. I promise you that. There are so many times you can sit down with some of the most intelligent people in the world, and they're terrible at this. Terrible at this. So they've got to get him out of there. And the other thing that's brutal about this is he needs to be able to organically speak to the positive things that WWE is doing and not carry the blunders with him, because they shove it down our throats on the weekly programming so much. They take so many victory laps. There are times when it feels like the episodes are commercials for themselves. And they've got to let him speak organically about it, because there's so much inorganic shoehorning that doesn't need to be there anymore, by the way. Netflix is now paying you $1 billion. You do not need to do this as much anymore. But him not being able to authentically speak on things is a big problem, because there are so many instances of them inorganically having Michael Cole read the last like braggadocious stat. So I feel like lay off of that stuff and make a change at that media relationship side, because it is not good. And number 5 is actually something I kind of surprised myself with. I feel like WWE merch could be a lot better than it is. And that's not to say that they aren't doing well on it. They are selling so much. They have all the really cool replica belts. They have some really good stuff that is going on the merch side. But when I look at it, I feel like there's also so much money being left on the table from uninspired designs and a lack of innovative thinking. And for clarity, they're doing some really great things, right? I went on to see, because Jey Uso is always one of the biggest sellers. They have foam hands to do the yeet thing with. They have the shutter shades, which if I was a kid that liked Jey Uso, I would be yanking on my parents until they bought me those shutter shades. So they're doing a lot of things well. But then I look at their top stars. All of Cody's t-shirts are just variations of the Nightmare logo. Roman Reigns, oh, wow, a black, red, and white t-shirt. I've never seen anything like that before. Liv Morgan's, like, there's one cool design in there, and then everything else is actively not very good. Rhea Ripley, she's kind of got that goth aesthetic, but it is very templatized. So I think they could be doing a lot more on that front from the design aspect. And when I say there's a lack of innovation, they're not really taking advantage of all of the resources that you have. Like, this is a company they're perverts about QR codes. Why isn't there a QR code on the inside of a WWE t-shirt that when I scan it, like, I bought a Rhea Ripley t-shirt, I scanned this QR code as a little kid, and there's a video message that pops up for her thanking her for buying it. That is like value you can't even quantify. That little kid is going to be asking for Rhea Ripley merch for the rest of her freaking life if you were to do that. And the parents would love it because it would feel sincere and personal, and like you've created a merch experience versus buying a t-shirt. And there's so many ways to do that. I think Instagram is getting rid of their AR filters that they had, but there were things you could do, like have designs have um aspects of them pop out in 3D, or backgrounds fill in, where if I was wearing my Roman Reigns shirt and I held up my phone and went to take a selfie, you'd have like, oh, you could have the whole family tree PowerPoint in the background if you wanted to. So I think they need to get a little bit outside of the box in those ways. Some of their designs are great. The breadth of what they sell is excellent. But I do feel like there's money being left on the table in that regard. So those are the 5 things that I feel like this month I'm seeing from WWE that I think they could do a little better. Stay tuned for my AEW one that'll be coming out on Wednesday. And later in the month, we're going to talk about 5 things that each company is doing extraordinarily well. So thank you so much for joining me as I'm jumping back in. It's exciting to be back. I'm excited to have this place just to kind of like stretch my arms, stretch my legs, and be able to talk wrestling with you guys without it being necessarily in a post show format. So thanks for sticking with me through not creating any content. I hate to be like hiatus, or there's not going to be a dramatic notes app about my return to this. Like I'm just thankful that you guys are here. And if you could leave a thumbs up on your way out, that would be super helpful. It really, really helps people find me in the algorithm as dusting things off here. It's still very young and growing at this. I am getting closer and closer to those monetization benchmarks. So I appreciate your help in helping me get there. Stay tuned. We have so many fun things coming up on this channel. There's going to be stuff that I ask your participation for. There's going to be interviews that are coming back. If you remember the one I did with Bad Dude Tito asking who the better dude is, we've got more things kind of in that format coming up, and so much more. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching this. It really does mean so much to me, but leave a thumbs up on your way out, and I will see you for another 5 things AEW edition on Wednesday. Thanks so much.